Hello, sir.
Sorry, too many like Windows and mute buttons and other things going on today.
Hmm.
I think it's just us. I know Marcus is on vacation. I don't know if Michael will be coming or not. So the only thing I really wanted to do was to just check on what the status is of your PR.
Yes. Uh, so
There's a
I
bunch of
have
comments out there.
uh, generous comments as usual, and
Yes.
I appreciate, of
And
course.
okay, and do me a favor, just to make it a little easier, could you actually use the resolve button when add a comment about why you think it's done and then use the resolve just to close out stuff you think you've addressed?
Uh, yeah, the thing is that I don't know if to. So I don't know if I should resolve or who
Well, in
opened
theory,
the comments.
it should be Michael that resolves them, but or
Right.
whoever. But we need to know that it's ready to be resolved. That I guess that's the point. So
Okay. So, all right. I.
I mean, if you're working on it, I don't need to go into the details of it. I've already given my feedback, and it's mostly about the wrapper stuff. I still think, well, have you started the process at all of getting together with Marcus and getting the separate repo set up?
Oh no, not yet. Not yet. I've not done
Okay.
that. No, I had a lot to do with the PR. So, okay, now it's my PC is freezing.
Well,
Nice.
of course.
Uh, okay, so I just pushed, I think, some, um, right, some
Okay, those were
commits.
all, so the commits are all new this morning because I was looking at it earlier and didn't see anything, right?
Yeah, I forgot to push actually.
Okay.
And share here.
Yeah, now it's kicked off all of our lovely testing.
Okay. Um, okay, and I also have a review pending with, I mean, the answers to the commits to some comments, basically.
Okay.
Nothing major here. Mostly documentation, indentation, the indentation part that you were talking about,
Okay, good.
um, these sort of things.
I mean, that
Uh,
was just piddly little stuff. The rest of it looked fine to me. I mean,
yeah. So
so
the big thing here, maybe to discuss. I don't know if you may have
I have,
suggestions.
okay.
Uh, so
Did you really say that? Did
surely,
you really just say that?
surely you do. Now, I will describe a problem.
Sorry.
That's the thing, and maybe you have a suggestion there. So what I did here was to remove all the basically everything from the PDO services-based Docker file
Yep.
and add a small section where well, you define the
Yep.
like a primitives variable, you run the script within, well, actually here we have to copy first the script from the attestation API to set up the container
Why does it have to be copied?
and then run it. So,
Because
okay,
it's
there are
already
things here.
in Project PDO source.
Uh, so the
Or are
if
you
I'm not
saying, oh, no, no, I bet I
to
know what it is. We
copy it
haven't done,
later,
we haven't actually copied the repository at this point, right?
that's right. That's correct.
Okay.
That's the point. Precisely the point. That's the first thing that we do in PDO services.
Exactly. Okay,
And,
that
and
makes
so
perfect
I
sense.
have to go
Yep.
and pick that up.
Now add a comment to that effect, please.
Okay, I can do that.
I mean, if we're doing weird stuff,
No,
I'm
it
okay
makes
with
sense.
it.
Yeah,
But
this is one to discuss. Yes.
6 months from now, I'm gonna look at that and look like, what the hell were we thinking?
Why?
Exactly. I
Yes.
mean, there's a good reason for it. I don't have a problem with it. So
Um, okay. So this was one, and the other one is this environment variable of the Diga primitives. Because later I need this variable to understand where it is, well, to understand where the Diga primitives will be located, essentially.
Mhm.
And this is ugly because it's ugly but necessary for now, it
so
seems.
why do it that way instead of just providing a parameter to set up?
Parameter to set up.
Are you telling me that you need it in setup or do you need it other places?
Well, it's needed later in, so, well, if you just search for it here, it's used in the setup, of course.
Okay.
But
Yeah, but I'm fine with that. I don't really care.
actually, I know, because this is just a commit. Now, 1 second.
I mean, if the only place we're using it is in setup, then just give it as a parameter.
No, it's also used here in the attestation API CMake list, where the sources of the well, Diga primitives are used.
Okay,
Basically.
and are we?
So I will need that in the container at build time.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Again, just comment it so that I know what's going on. And that
okay.
will just make life easier.
I think it's a bit ugly because this is essentially a dependency of the attestation API part, and it's ugly that it has to be defined within the PDO services base. But if I use an export, for example, it doesn't persist. So I need that in the.
No, that's fine. But the other thing you can do in here, so you could add it to common config. That would be one place to put it, right? Which would address that. I mean, that's where everything else is that has that characteristic. And then the other thing is make sure you put a check here to make sure that it's defined.
Oh yeah, okay, that will make sense as well. Yeah.
And you can put a default in there if you want, but at least check to make sure it's defined. So. I have guys out trimming trees, so if you hear craziness.
No,
The
it's actually.
chainsaws are going outside my window, so I can hear you mostly okay, but you may hear a bunch of buzzing. So
Well, your headset might have a good noise canceling and the microphone, which not everyone has.
it is I spent money on the headset. If I take the headset off and just use the camera microphone, you'll hear everything. So
Yeah. That's I can imagine.
when the house is empty and nothing's going on, I don't mind that, but yeah, they have to climb up. We're actually taking out some big branches, so they're actually climbing into the trees and doing some stuff. So I'm saying that because I'm just looking out the window and I saw some big branch fall down and I was like, oh, great. This is what I paid them for, but all right. So anyway, so my recommendations for this is It's a common thing, put it in common config. There are very reasonable defaults for it. That's suggestion number one. Requirement will be, if you're going to use it here, then make sure you check to make sure it's defined.
But no, well, to make the check here for sure. But even if I put it in common config, maybe it's not enough, because setup the because common config is run afterwards.
No,
I believe.
because you can't build anything else in there without running common config.
Yeah, but yeah, but at this point we have not sourced common config here.
Are you building the API separately from the rest of PDO?
No, I'm not building the API separately, but this setup.sh uses the variable already.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting you take this stuff out. Or again, if you have setup, then put setup, just put a parameter in setup and then put in common config for the rest of it.
Okay.
And then your setup can have a default value of the current environment variable if it's not otherwise set, or if the parameter overrides whatever default you want it to be. This is small. This is small stuff, right? If it's well commented, my requirement is check it in the CMake to make sure it's defined, right? I would strongly recommend adding it to common config because you're going to need it. What happens if I build bare metal on it? Or if I change, if I go back in and rebuild in the container, that's not necessarily picking up all the environment stuff.
Yeah, you may need that. Yeah.
So required in CMake, put it in common config. And here you can just, got to set this right now for the initial setup for it. It will be overridden or it will be set again in common config. I don't really care what it is. Do whatever the simplest thing is to do. I think that's not a problem.
Okay, sounds good.
I guess what I'm saying is for the Docker build, that's fine, but don't assume that the only way things are going to get built is through the Docker builds. If I'm doing development on PDO, I'm going to have to build in a container or build bare metal, and I will not have the environment variable set ahead of time. So you could even, put it in that environment.sh file as well if you want. It kind of overrides everything. So I think it's you have lots of options. Pick one. Don't care. And if I do care, these are small changes that I know how to make. So that's fine.
Okay, got it.
And this, and in particular, this is still more, this discussion we're having is more about how to integrate with PDO than it is about what the API looks like. So I'm presuming a future in which you have your own repository. The parts I'm going to give you stronger feedback on are the ones that I know I'm going to have to deal with later on. So. And having the setup script is perfect. I mean, that is the thing that simplifies. So.
Yeah, I think it removes a lot of stuff from from the Docker file here.
Yep.
Although
it makes it easier. It makes it easier to maintain. I mean, that's the bottom line. So.
Yeah, here maybe there is some expert thing to be learned about Docker, because it would be nice to be able to import some lines of a Docker file, of another Docker file.
Yes, I completely agree. I have been looking for ways to do that. I have not found anything.
Yeah.
It
So
would be really, really nice to just say, this section of the Docker file is going to come out of that file over there.
yeah,
And
that's right.
I don't know how to do that. I have not found anyone who has suggested ways to do that, but I did take a look. So,
Okay.
this is great. So, and it's consistent with, and in fact, maybe the right place to, well, no, because this is coming out of the attestation API. So whenever we pull that, it's going to get pulled out of there. So we have the point of the tools directory in there is to do almost exactly what you're doing here. It's to move a bunch of the functionality out of the Docker file into a script so that we can manage the script in a much easier way than managing the Docker file. So,
Yeah. Actually, there
so
is
I think it was a great
another.
idea. I like this idea. So, and the environment variable, you can
Yeah,
figure it out. So,
yeah, it's nice. It's nice. So, yeah, you just need a small section in PDO, or in any other project that needs that.
yep.
So one more point. This one, yes, you commented about this. You need to rebase and get rid of this, of the SGXSL stuff.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to end up with a merge conflict because you already moved them into they're already in the PDO repo.
More or less, because we made this modification in the main branch. This is a PR in the attestation.
Yes, so
API
you
branch.
need to rebase the attestation branch on main. You'll have to do that at some point anyway.
Okay, I guess that.
It can't be merged the way it is right now. Because we've had other commits added to not just this one, but we've had other commits that are added to main.
Yeah, that's right. But I don't know to what I mean.
You have to
Keeping the
rebase. I mean,
branches in sync is
yes, it's a problem, but there's no option to it. I mean, you don't have to do it right now, but before it gets merged, it has to be done.
okay. Can it simply be rebased, or you have to basically merge the commits in that branch?
You should be able to.
I don't know if it's
Okay, it
protected.
depends. It depends. No. You're not going to push to main. Right? You're going to, I mean, the PR that you have right now is against the dev branch, which is fine. But when you've opened the PR to merge the dev branch with main, this is going to cause a conflict. So the branch has no conflict with the base branch means that it has no conflicts with the dev branch. It does have conflicts with main.
This PR in particular, because we already merged the.
Because we've got stuff like
part.
this, right?
Yeah. Okay, let me check what I can do with that.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you've got commits that add stuff and then commits that take those things away later. Cleaning up the commit history just makes life so much easier, but it's a pain in the butt for you. So, it is what it is. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So,
Okay. Sounds good. I can do that.
yeah, I spend a lot of time doing commit history editing to keep things clean on mine. So, but I mean, it's a for better or worse. You either do it at the end or you do it at the beginning or do it in process. It has to be done. It's the same amount of work no matter when you do it. So.
Okay, I don't think I have other things for today.
Okay. Did you take a look at the configurable test workflow? Did you try it?
No, I didn't have time, frankly.
Okay. And I say that because the thing about it is when you run it as a dispatch, when you explicitly dispatch it, it gives you a set of parameters, right? You can set the log level and the interpreter and whatever. And so my question was going to be to you on this, are there things that we should make parameterized for different forms of testing for it? Like, can we say use ITA or use decap directly or whatever? Do you have an environment variable that differentiates which version is going to be used? This is not one where I'm going to put a matrix in and like we do with interpreters and say, use Wawaka or Wawaka opt, right? We're not going to do that. Too much work, but being able to come back in and say, okay, the default was decap, but I really want to test ITA, so I can specify test ITA.
Okay. Well,
So my question, I'm not asking you to make those changes. I'm just asking you, is there an environment variable that configures how the attestation takes place? And should that be something that's exposed? And maybe that's for the second PR more than the first.
no. Okay, so the cool thing of this API is that no, there is no such API. There is no such environment variable, which is great. You select the attestation based on the type field that you put in a JSON blob. Actually,
Okay, so the point is that I'll have to write my own environment variable to pick the JSON blob.
well, that is up to you.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's what I'm saying. I'll have some means if I want to test multiple styles of attestation, I'll have to put a parameter in there and I will have some code that's associated with that parameter to make it work.
So this is the attestation flow, and yeah, so this is basically what's happening. You have a JSON blob, you put an attestation type, and then you start generating the attestation and verifying that. So the selection happens with this.
Well, from the attestation library side of things, I believe that, but from my side, it's going to be, there'll be some kind of parameter to pick what that type is.
Yeah. Now at build time, there is well, there is at least one variable which is, well, the URL of ITA. That's required if you want to build properly. Otherwise, you will not get the root certificate and you cannot perform verifications.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find it. Maybe not. No, okay, I cannot find it now. So there is, yeah, the URL for ITA for proper configuration. You don't have to pass that, but if you don't pass it, it will compile it properly, but without the root certificate for ITA. And then there are the skip tests. Environment, well, yeah, variables for the script, which are meant to, well, skip certain tests. I think I would like to make this skip test decap with ITA, essentially default, simply because basically nobody can test ITA at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll leave that.
So, but it's there for now.
Okay.
So this may be difficult to maintain going forward. Yeah.
Which
And
part?
no, well, essentially all the testing, and
Yeah, but
so
that's not my problem because that's in your repo.
I know.
I
So
ain't
Evid is
running any
going
of those.
away.
I don't really care.
DCAP, I don't have DCAP machines, DCAP capable machines, and ITA is not even
Well,
available.
this is kind of an interesting thing. The question would be, can we get you access to some of those TDX boxes?
If
That's
you want to
actually
send
something.
one,
No. But but if I give you an account, in the same way, so Justin's got an account that Marcelo set up. Let me just, 1 second.
mm-hmm.
Okay, I got that asked. I think it's an interesting question. So.
Okay. At least we can maintain this one.
Yep. I mean, you're going to need it, and it also actually makes things. And the ideal thing is if we could figure out how to do a GitHub runner on those machines, so you could just use it that way. That would be ideal, but I don't know how to do that. So. But that would be something we might want to look into. Yeah.
And probably here sooner or later, so I'm not sure that this DCAP direct here, which is, well,
You're not sharing anymore, by the way.
Yeah. What I wanted to say is that this DCAP direct thing, which is the DCAP verification directly with the DCAP primitives, the DCAP libraries, I don't know if it works out of the box for TDX attestations. Those may be different. So at some point, well, somebody should add TDX verifications here. Or DCAP TDX verifications.
Yep. But at least those machines have SGX right now, so. I was not suggesting that we use TDX. I was not suggesting that we move into TDX. I was suggesting that we use those because they have SGX enabled on them.
Okay.
So that was my point more than anything. Okay. Well, let's see what we can do with that.
Yeah, and this is it from me.
Okay. Very good. Michael and I have been kind of fighting. Well, no, Michael's been providing testing, but now I've been able to test it on his NUC. But there's something with LMDB. We made a good choice and we made a bad choice. I mean, LMDB
Okay.
just sort of works, right? It's straightforward, but
Yeah.
Its integration into Python is leaves something to be desired. How's that? So,
Ah, okay. I thought it was, I mean,
well, it's
reasonable.
got a, you can't open the same file twice in the same process. That's the biggest issue. And right now we're getting a core dump around LMDB, something in Prakash's code. And I don't know that code well enough to understand exactly what he's doing. So, you know how it is. As long as I don't look at the code, I don't really care what it does. If I have to look at the
Yeah.
code, then it's going to get cleaned up. And I'm kind of to the point with Prakash's code where I'm kind of looking at it like, oh, I'm gonna have to just get in here, and there's a bunch of there's a bunch of stuff in there that was like, you can replace these 500 lines with one line, right? So,
Oh, gee.
I mean, he took the storage client, and instead of just making it a storage client, he copied the entire code. Hey, I gotta go. At this point, the guys are at the door, so I'll let you go for the moment.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks, Bruno.
Yes,
Bye.
we're done. Thanks, Mick. Bye-bye.